Welcome to the show. We hope you have a blast. Thanks for making time for the Dealer Talk podcast.
Hello, welcome to another episode of the Dealer Talk podcast. This is your host, Herb Anderson. Thank you so much for tuning in. You know, with everything that's going on right now, the one thing that is constant for every dealership, whether you're shut down or your departments have been kind of segmented out, you're only working on the service department. The one thing that's constant is your website. Your website is still up, is still running, and there's a lot of studies, there's a lot of reports out there that website traffic is actually it's going up, right? It's trending upwards. So I'm very excited to have today the founder and CEO of 321 Ignition. I had the privilege of doing a demo with them a couple weeks ago, and I was blown away. I just knew that this was something that we had to do immediately. I didn't want to wait to put this session out because, like I said, the website is the one thing that is critically important in these times. And so without further ado, the guest for today is Lyamen Savy. Lyamen, what's going on? How are you?
Doing great. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Yeah, no, this is awesome. I'm very excited to have this session with you to get some of this information out there, especially, given the times. I typically kick things off with tell us about your background. Give us a little bit of your, your expertise.
So my background is I worked at a lot of companies outside of automotive industry. So everything from Microsoft, from Capital One, ING Direct, DataSphere, which got acquired by Sinclair Broadcast, House Values that got acquired by Zillow. So one of my key specialties is because I've worked at so many different companies in so many different industries. My job has always been to acquire customers and generate revenue and increase profitability for companies I work for. And because of my background being so diverse, I've always been able to just take the best key learnings from each industry and apply. So any business I approach, I think of it as a machine. A business is a machine. What are the inputs? What are the touch points and what are the outputs? So it doesn't matter what industry you are, but as long as you know all the levers you could pull and move, that's the recipe for success. And my expertise is customer acquisition and profitability.
Right on. And so how do you get to 321 Ignition?
321 Ignition actually came around by pure accident. I was at that time working at Microsoft, and one of my friends, she works for independent dealership here in Washington State, and they're one of the larger ones. They have, I think they're fourth or fifth volume dealerships here in Washington State. She's been working at that dealership since she was 17 years old, and the dealership is doing really, really well. They sell a lot of cars, but she, reached out to me one day and said, can you come by my dealership and just take a look at our marketing? Maybe there's something else we could be doing even better. Just always having that thought. Can we be doing even better? And so I came by her dealership, and it was a Saturday. I spent about 3 or 4 hours at the store, and I was looking through all of her marketing, her paid. We started off with paid media, and that's when I realized, the agency that she was using to run her paid media was doing it all wrong. One is they weren't charging her correctly. Two, they weren't spending the budget correctly. As an example, she was spending about $50,000 a month on advertising. Out of that $50,000, they would spend only about $400 on Google ads, but then they'll spend $4,000 on Pandora ads. And I'm like, why are you guys spending $4,000 on Pandora ads, but only $400 on Google ads? And that agency was telling her that, well, in automotive, it's all about brand awareness. And so we want to make sure you have a really big brand awareness. I'm like, that's not how brand awareness works. You're not going to get brand awareness just by spending $4,000 in Pandora ads. Like when I worked at Capital One and I was actually in charge of their brand awareness, it was ING Direct company at that time. I was in charge of, $3 million budget. For 3 months, we did a test to using TV advertising, using out-of-home campaigns. So even after spending $3 million, we only increased our brand awareness by 1 point. Like, what is the chances of, a dealership with only $4,000 Pandora ads, not even TV ads, Pandora ads, be able to increase brand awareness? And, brand awareness is all about frequency and the RFPs, what's the reach and frequency. So for $4,000, you can't get a lot of reach or frequency. So then, I started digging into how they're spending money on, why are you guys not spending money on Google? Google is, it's a pool. People already actively know they have a problem. They're searching dealership near me. Why are you guys doing that? Then she started asking me about, SEO, and there would be companies who call her up and say, hey, for $1,000, we'll send you 2,000 backlinks. And she's like, Lyamen, is it a good deal? It sounds like, a lot of backlinks. And I'm like, well, it sounds like a lot of backlinks, but what's the domain authority? So like the more and more I keep helping her, the more I realize is that, in automotive, a lot of dealerships are being taken advantage of. And I've had stories like, for example, another dealership sent me an email where there's SEO company they've been working with who sent them an email saying, hey, look at this, for 6 months, we've been working on your SEO, and now you're ranking #1 position for keywords Ford F-150 Seattle lineup. He's like, Lyamen, is that good? And I'm like, well, it sounds good that you're #1, but what's the search volume? Right. So I went and looked up the search volume. There was 0 search volume. So the question is, does the company knew what they were doing taking advantage, or they were just ignorant and not know what they're doing? I assume they knew what they were doing because they're an SEO company. So I just, keep seeing, dealerships being taken advantage. So then, she would call me up and she's like, hey, Lyamen, one of the companies who was powering their website, they got acquired by another company. I'm not going to name names. She's like, they're calling me up, want me to upgrade. Do you think it's a good deal? So I started helping her reviewing websites. And I'm like, this doesn't look like a really good company, but they were charging like $1,500. And at first I thought, well, maybe she's just not spending enough. Like maybe she's working with really low cost providers. So I started helping her doing research, who are other website providers. And I'm like, oh my God, they're all like that. And that's when I actually decided that I think, DJ, my co-founder, and I, we could do a better job. And I told him about my idea, and he's like, okay, let's do it. So 321 Ignition was born.
Right on. Yeah, it's a great story, man. And I like the perspective there that, it was kind of, you were helping somebody out and that led you to discover multiple things and ultimately landed on the website. And then you decided that, with your expertise and background, that there was a way for you to kind of improve what was already available. So I have a theory about websites, and I kind of wanted to talk to you about this and get your perspective. So I used to work for one of the third-party listing sites. Mm-hmm. And we were always taught in training sessions that the website is the virtual dealership, right? Mm-hmm. Which I kind of agree with, but I don't know, maybe in the extent of where we are today, that thought has kind of evolved to, it's not just a virtual dealership, right? Your website should be your virtual salesperson.
Yes.
Right? And what I mean by that is, if a customer has any questions, they should be able to get that from the website experience, right? Yes. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes when I have that conversation, I get a lot of pushback on, well, we don't want that because we want people to call us. We want people to have questions so that they come to the dealership. And I don't know, I keep thinking about digital experiences, and maybe this is a stretch, but like the Amazon experience, right? And I know cars are different, I get it. But when you buy something on Amazon, you don't call anybody. You know what I mean? Everything is so seamless, so easy that you can go through that whole process uninterrupted.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to get your take on that. I mean, do you think that's accurate? Do you think that it's good to have that strategy of, well, we want some ambiguity so that we can get people to interact with us? Or should we just focus on trying to address everything for the customer online so that they can just make their decision and come buy the car, or buy it online, or do some sort of digital retailing or modern retailing as we're calling it now?
Yeah. So there's actually a case study by Harvard Business School. The case study was based on 60,000 customers. It wasn't specifically for the car shopping. And so the theory or hypothesis we're trying to prove is online shopping reduce your sales. And when the internet was invented, people thought all the brick and mortar stores are going to go out of business because everybody's buying online. But what the research showed, and this is based on 60,000 shoppers. So, like in the or in statistics, you probably need a sample size of 100 to make anything statistically significant. This is based on 60,000 shoppers. And so what they learned is people who are actually spending time online researching, not only did they actually still go buy into the store and buy the product, but their basket size increased by over 20%. And also they were more likely to make a decision faster at the store. A lot of times when people are doing online shopping is to help their experience at the store. And for dealerships, it's even that much more important, because imagine if you're selling somebody a $20,000 car. if they've done their research online, one is they're going to trust the car salesman more, because whatever car salesperson is telling them, it's going to be consistent with what they saw online, versus if they didn't actually do the research online. If they haven't done the research online and they walk into the store, their immediate reaction, their guard is up. They're like, oh, that's just a salesperson. He's just trying to sell me something.
Sure.
But if they actually went to the website, and your dealership website made it easy for them to do compare and contrast and understand their trade-offs and options, people don't always necessarily buy things that are least expensive. They actually sometimes will be buying more expensive stuff if they understand the trade-offs. It's called a value-based selling. You're not selling based on lowest price, you're selling it based on value. So this is where it's important. Like, yes, if you don't have a good website that doesn't do a good job of explaining things, if you put everything but you didn't do a good job of comparing it, then no, you probably will lose sales. But if your website did a really good job at comparing and helping customers understand the value they're getting, they're not only going to actually come in and buy the product, they're actually probably going to be willing to buy extended warranties and gap insurance and all that other stuff that you didn't even think about it. And even like a more expensive car. One of the features that we have at 321 Ignition is our car comparison tool. I'm literally absolutely obsessed with it. So one of the things you could do is, and we're the only company that actually has it. It's kind of crazy to me, but our comparison tool, when you add cars to the comparison, there's a modern age problem, which is called choice overload. The more choices you have, the more you're likely to delay making that decision. And so if and the number one competition of a dealership is actually not a dealership next door. Their number one competition is status quo. Do nothing, make no decision. And the reason why people don't make decisions is because they're overwhelmed. They're afraid of making a bad decision. There's a prospect theory called, people would rather avoid loss than to gain something. So our car comparison tool, what it does is, not only does it, of course, allow you to add cars, which everybody does, but then it makes it easier for you to make a decision, because now this is a moment of truth, the Google moment of truth. Now they came down to 4 cars, now help them make a decision. So for example, our car comparison tool allows you to drag and drop things, to put in any order you want, not just a numerical order, or by mileage, your price, whatever. So you could literally drag and drop to put in any order that makes sense to you. And then it shows you a price of a car and a monthly payment. So a lot of times when I look at the cars, let's say I took a car for $20,000, I took a car for $23,000, for $26,000. In terms of a monthly payment, it's only maybe like $50 or $100 difference. But then you're looking at the cars, you're like, but wow, this car that's $5,000 more, even though it's $5,000 more than I was willing to spend, but it has lower mileage. Or maybe it's SUV that I really wanted, or maybe it's a newer model. Like, okay, fine, I'll pay the $50 more. So here you are, upsold the customer without even having to talk to a salesperson, but not because you were trying to sell them, but it's because you were being helpful. You were helping them make a decision by, playing around with the tools and customizing and personalizing it to them.
Right on, yeah.
Does that answer your question? I think
yeah, it does. And I liked what you said about choice overload, because that brings up another question. And we were kind of talking a little bit about this before we started recording, but I see that we're getting to a place where there's a lot of, choices, from the SRP, right? Even before the customer gets down to the VDP page.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing, but are some of the choices that are available, they just don't seem to fit, right?
Yeah.
And so when we think about the website and that experience that the customer is going to have, are there certain metrics, or not metrics, but are there certain things that we should be focusing on that answer those questions, right? It goes to transparency, making it easy for the customer to make that decision, or do we just overload them with all these different widgets? A lot. I still see, today's pricing, those sorts of things, which I don't quite understand and not necessarily agree with.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I noticed that every single one website provider puts a lot of buttons on the search results page, and that actually goes against user experience best practice, UX UI. In the user experience best practice for web design, you don't put this. Every page has its purpose. And so when you put, schedule a test drive, unlike get an e-price, everything on a search results page, then what's the point of a vehicle detail page?
Right.
if you go look at the Best Buy, Amazon, Macy's.com, you will see it very clearly that every page has its purpose. When you go to search results page, let's say on Macy's looking at pots and pans, search results page is never going to say add to shopping cart. It's going to say, price and maybe, click to get to the detail page. And that's when it's going to say, add to shopping cart.
Right. Yeah.
So, when I was talking to one advertising agency in automotive, they were saying, their goal is to get more people to the vehicle detail page. And I'm like, really? I'm like, why is that your number one goal? And they're like, well, it's the most valuable action is to get people to the vehicle detail page, because the way how websites are designed right now, nobody's going to the vehicle detail page. I'm like, well, there's no reason for them to go to vehicle detail page. Everything's on the search results page. And second of all, I'm like, well, why is that the most important, action for somebody to take? And I'm like, the most important, value is a lead. Lead is what dealerships need, not just somebody going to the vehicle detail page. But because right now the websites are structured so poorly where people are not even going to the vehicle detail page, this agency's goal is just to get people to a vehicle detail page instead of their goal being a lead. So the way to measure the success of your website, ultimately it's the leads and revenue. But the other indicators is daily active usage and average time spent on site. So for example, if you look at Facebook is a publicly traded company, so they publish their numbers every month. The numbers they report, besides here's the revenue we generated from advertising, is, what's the daily active usage? How much time people are spending on the site, and how frequent are they going back to the site? And car shopping should be exactly the same way, because nobody wakes up one and says, today I'm going to buy a $30,000 car. They usually probably started thinking about it 3 to 4 months in advance, according to JD Powers, they do. So as soon as they started thinking about it, how are dealerships making sure that your website is the website they're going to as a trusted source to do that research and compare cars instead of going to auto traders of the world? How is your website becoming the auto trader? And dealership websites are actually more valuable to Google than auto trader, because it's a first party data versus second or third party data. Auto traders are third party data. Dealership website is a first party data. It's your own data. So if dealerships were to design their website where people are actually, coming to the site, staying on the site, making this website sticky, like how is your website making it sticky experience where people keep, spending more time on it, then it actually will help them with their SEO as well. And so the key KPIs, key performance indicators, is the lead volume, the average daily usage, how frequently somebody going back to your site, and how much time are they spending on your site? How many actions are they taking on your site?
Right on. So that brings up another question for me. So what should it look like? And I mean, we don't have to get super granular, but what should the experience be from the SRP to the VDP? Should we have is there like click to call on the SRP? Is that a good practice? Is it, should we have anything on there, just basic information to entice the customer to click and go deeper?
Yeah, the only click to call you should have on SRP is in top navigation, where it's click to call the dealership or click to drive to the dealership. That's the only click to any action should be on SRP. SRP purpose is to show the photos.
Like at the top of the page, you mean?
Yeah, like, the top navigation.
Yeah.
But beyond that, the purpose of SRP page is to help a customer go through inventory, as they're going through it. So it's just really showing like how people don't like to click and people don't like to scroll too much. So it's thinking through like how many cars can you fit above the fold, or without having to keep scrolling. Like some of the worst sites I've seen where the photo would be this tiny and then there'll be a bunch of text and be a bunch of buttons. And I'm like, that's like the worst. And then there's a best case scenario I've seen where you see a photo, it has a lot of white space, and then it has a lot of text, and then it has a lot of buttons. That's the best case I've seen. But the real best scenario is where you have everything compartmentalized and it's designed specifically for a mobile device, because majority of dealership traffic is mobile. So it's, it's like, for example, our user experience is based on Redfin and Zillow. If you go to our search results pages for dealership websites, it literally looks like Zillow and Redfin. And, we took from the best of breeds. Zillow is, $1 billion company, or I think more than $1 billion company. They have a lot of data, so they've done a lot of testing. And, my board of advisors is from Zillow. And so, we took some of the best practices from all these companies we work for outside of automotive industry and, completely revisited the whole experience. So with our search results page, you could actually swipe and see more than one photo without having to go to the vehicle detail page, similar like you would be able to do with Redfin, similar like you would be able to do it on Macy's website, where you could actually see it. Especially dealerships that have, 200 cars, 300 cars. Like, it's really annoying if you can, swipe through the photos. And then most importantly, I would add is adding a monthly payment. Showing to a customer that, yes, you can afford this car. The sequence of thought in the car shopper's behavior is, do I want this car and can I afford this car? So the photo tells them, yes, you want this car. The mileage tells them, yes, you want this car. The year of the car, the make of the model, all that shows up really neatly on a search results page. But the next thing is, can I afford this car? And that's including, how much the car costs and what's the monthly payment. Most people buy these days in monthly payment. And what's even more interesting to me is that all manufacturers advertise their cars, like when they're doing a Lexus advertisement or Ford advertisements, they always say, new 2020 model, now only, $400 per month. But when you go to dealership website, a lot of times they're actually missing that. So it's not even consistent with their own advertising.
Right, yeah. So, kind of following along that flow, if you will. So what about the VDP? What should that experience be like?
Yeah, so the VDP should be focused on that specific vehicle and focused on helping a customer make a decision and take action. Sorry, I think my throat is getting dry a little. So the VDP is really focused, how do we help a customer make a decision? But it shouldn't be just, a bunch of buttons slapped at the same time. Like what I see happen all the time is you go to dealership website, they'll have like 5 or 6 buttons. All buttons are exact same color. And so it's not clear to a customer what's the primary call to action, what's the secondary call to action. And even now, I feel like it got even worse with COVID because a lot of dealerships got digital retailing tools, and those tools are amazing. But what good does a tool do if nobody understands how to use it or how to even find it? For example, one of the dealerships we're about to launch, they have a Car Now digital retailing tool, which is a great, digital retailing tool. But if you go to their website, and I've done this test with several people, I'm like, I would show somebody, the vehicle detail page. I'm like, can you tell where you could buy a car online? And nobody so far been able to guess which button actually allows them to buy a car online. So, the vehicle detail page, you need to think through the thought process. You can't have more than 3 buttons. That's best practice. There should be a primary button, there should be a secondary, and maybe a tertiary, and everything else needs to be a hyperlink. Versus what I see with dealership websites, everything is a button and everything is spread out all over the place. Versus the way we design our vehicle detail page, it's really using the decision tree. Do I want this car? Can I afford this car? And how do I buy this car? And using the decision tree is how we design the user experience. How do we make it easier for somebody in the vehicle detail page to make a decision? Yes, you do want this car. Yes, you can afford this car. And yes, here's how you buy this car.
Right on. So let's talk. This might be a little bit off topic, but let's try to tie it into the website, and that's digital retailing. I'm glad you brought that up because obviously everybody's talking about it now more than ever. A lot of the vendors are offering it free, which means a lot of the dealers are putting these widgets on their website. But number one, when we talk about digital retailing, do you think the messaging is accurate? I mean, is it really a full online purchasing experience? Because if we just slap a widget on our website and we don't tell customers what it does, and the expectation is that they're going to buy that car online, and then they still have to go into the box, and they still have to go to the dealership to sign paperwork and all that stuff, they're not really getting the experience that they thought they were getting. Number two, from a website perspective, what's the best practice? How do we set that up for the most success?
Yeah, great question. So I've been obsessing about this topic for quite some time, and I've been doing a lot of market research. I would show different people vehicle detail page with different buttons, and I'm like, okay, what do you think about this call to action? What do you think about, what did you expect would happen when you clicked on that? And, we've been playing around with the digital retailing buttons, like to say, buy it online now. And one of the guys, I asked him, I'm like, if you saw a button like that says buy it online now, what would you do? And he's like, well, I hate going to the dealership because I don't want anybody to sell me anything. So he's like, I would actually buy the car online. I'm like, great. I'm like, but he's like, but I wouldn't buy a car unless I go do schedule a test drive. So he's like, so what I would have done is I would have went first and did a schedule a test drive and then came home to complete my paperwork. And I'm like, well, shoot, you really can't complete your paperwork, with buying up with the digital retailing right now. The deal, you still have to actually sign, the papers with ink. So that would have actually been a really poor experience, because imagine this guy went to the dealership, did a test drive, and thinks that he could go back to the dealership website and make a purchase, but in reality, he can't. He's then going to have to sit around and wait for dealership to FedEx him the paperwork or go back to the dealership. So that would have been a really poor, frustrating experience. So I'm like, okay, so that's not very clear, to say buy it online. Then what if we say, start buying process? And then I was talking to another person, I showed it to him. I'm like, okay, what do you think if you were to sell this? And she's like, well, a process to me sounds like it's complicated. Like, like I don't want to, go through a process. To me, process means, okay, this is going to take me an hour or something. I'm like, shoot, okay, that's not going to work either. So I forgot the button, but we went through many different scenarios. And so based on, getting feedback from people, we came up with the right button. I forgot what we named that. I need to look at my prototypes here, what the button was. But it is really important, Herb, to your point. Like a lot of times I see dealership websites, they don't even say buy it online. They'll say, like, for example, customize my payment. I'm like, how is customize my payment digital retailing? Like when I think of a customize my payment, I'm thinking I'm going to be playing with a payment calculator. But instead, it takes me first screen as put in your information. Like for example, CarNow, first digital screen is actually, it tells you to put in your information. Well, now that's a friction. Like that's just annoying. Like, why did you tell me to customize my payment? But the only way to do it is if I give you my information, and so, but instead, like, CarNow is actually, buy it online. But the other thing, what's missing from old dealership websites and from the whole car shopping experience is shipping. How much is the shipping going to cost me? So, when people are thinking about buying a car, this decision tree, again, do I want this car? Can I afford this car? Okay, and then how do I buy this car? And so let's say you could buy it in person, you could buy it online. Okay, great. I want to buy it online because I don't want to go into the store. But how much is the shipping going to cost me? And none of the websites actually allow you to get a quote for shipping. So then immediately that actually gives you an anxiety, because then you're like, oh, shoot, now I have to go find a shipping company. Well, how do I know who to trust? Versus if a dealership actually had a shipping capabilities on their website, then, customer trusts you. They're doing business with you. They're like, okay, shipping is going to be taken care of. And then also, like, one of the features we added to our shipping is be able to include shipping in your financing. So, shipping sometimes depends how far you're transporting the vehicle. Maybe it's $1,000 or $2,000, but in terms of a monthly payment, maybe it's only $8 per month. You're like, okay, fine, let's do it, because it's going to give me the exact vehicle I want, the exact mileage, exact options and packages, and blah blah blah, all that other stuff. And instead of buying next door here, let's say a blue car, with the low mileage that I'm going to hate, I would rather, pay $8 more to include the shipping and maybe get a red one or a white one that I really want, So shipping is also really, really important part of a digital retailing. But the other key important thing with shipping is people need to be able to get a shipping quote before they start a buying process, because that's an anxiety. Going back to behavioral science, you're not going to start going through the purchase, path unless you know what the shipping cost is going to be. So, how are dealerships actually putting in a vehicle detail page the shipping costs, or saying the shipping is free? But I'm sure shipping is free only up to certain miles. Like, one of our dealerships we work with, they offer shipping up to 250 miles for free. And after that, they give you a $200 credit. Another dealership of ours gives you shipping free for 100 miles, but after that, they don't give you any credit. But still, but what if you want to ship over 100 miles? And so that's, by the way, another key thing is a lot of dealerships started promoting on their homepage that they do free delivery, but the vehicle detail page does not, again, remind them that shipping is free. So digital retailing, it's so important to think about what are the objections a customer is going to have, right, and how do you overcome those objections, so that having a salesperson right there, being able to overcome those objections, you're anticipating objections.
Yeah, and we can't just put the widget on the website and expect assume that the customers are going to know what that's for, right? We have to give that message and tell the customers this is what you should expect, if you choose to go this route.
Yeah, and not try to trick them. Like, that's the thing. Like, don't try to, just because you want to lead, trick them and say customize your payment just because that's going to get you more leads, but that's a really poor experience and it's going to hurt your CSI score, it's going to hurt your Google reviews. Like you need to gain a customer's trust. If without a trust, you have nothing. And when I worked at the Capital One, I was in charge of a share builder product, which is online brokerage, stocks, ETFs, and mutual funds. So it's a finance company. So as you can imagine, for a bank to have trust with customers is number one most important thing. Like if you don't trust your bank, you're not going to bank with them. And so I actually had to go through a lot of trainings regarding trust. Like how do you do marketing, but still, increase their trust? And there's a book called Leading at a Speed of Trust, written by Steve Covey. I highly, highly recommend that book and watch his YouTube videos. And, he talks about what happens when an organization has low trust. There, you take a trust tax. So when there's low trust, speed goes down, cost goes up. When there's high trust, speed goes up, cost goes down. So what does that mean? For example, if you have high trust with the customer, they're going to be more likely to make a decision faster, and they're more likely to be able to spend more money with you. So the speed goes up and your cost goes down because now you don't have to pay, a salesperson, a sales manager, all these people sitting there trying to talk to a customer, convincing them this is the car you want to buy. They're just like, they trust you, like they trust the salesperson because you've built that trust with them. So your operational cost goes down, and your speed to sell cars goes up, and your speed to sell cars at a higher price goes up, and to upsell them to maintenance package and gap insurance and all that stuff goes up. Like it's just trust is the number one key factor. So don't ever, look at the short term of just capturing somebody's email address and hurting the trust factor. That's critical, especially with today's day and age of internet. Everything is so transparent. You can't have a low trust.
Yeah, no, I love what you said there about the trust versus the lead, because it's crazy to me how we're still so focused on that, on trying to capture customers' information, right? Like, well, Google, everybody talks about the percentage is so small of people that are actually willing to give that. And I had a session with Jason Harris recently, and he talked about, and he said something very impactful. He said that, well, the reason that they're not filling those forms out is because you haven't given them a reason to, right?
Yeah.
So I love that. That makes a lot of sense. If you have that trust, if you can build that trust digitally, then that customer is going to be more willing to give that information, right? Because they trust you. They don't feel that, hey, they're just trying to get my information, or I'm going to get bombarded, or all those stereotypes and
Herb, so we actually, one of the things we offer with our website is ability to generate leads with Carfax. So dealerships are spending, $500 to $700 on offering Carfax to their consumers, and they do it because to build trust. But they're currently not actually capitalizing an opportunity to generate a lead from that. So what we've done is we actually added to a vehicle detail page when it says, download a Carfax. First of all, in terms of a trust factor and giving them the value, what that Jason said is, we made it very clear that this Carfax report is worth $39. Like now you're giving them something of value. And then when they click on that button, it pulls up a light box or a form, and it says, get a free Carfax report, normally valued $39, yours free. Get a history, information about the car. So to communicate to your customer, what's the value of this? And in exchange, they're willing to give you their contact information. When I started doing this, every dealership that I said that we were going to get the Carfax said, oh, people are just going to be filling out fake information. I've been monitoring the leads, the quality of leads. Every single one of them so far actually came in with the right information. I'm not even over-exaggerating. Maybe like 1 or 2 leads came in with fake information, but all of them are actually coming in with real, accurate information just by being able to say, hey, this Carfax report, it costs normally $39. It's a vehicle history report, but you get it for free, just by packaging it that way.
So wait a second. I've never heard of this before or seen it. That's interesting. So I'm on a website. I go to the VDP page, the Carfax button is there. I click it to download the report, and then something pops up and is like, hey, this typically costs $39. In order to get it, fill out this information. Wow, I kind of like that. Yeah, I like that a lot.
The crazy thing is, like, if you go to most dealership websites, they all have a Carfax for used cars, but they all just say Carfax. First of all, how do you know the customer even knows what Carfax is? I mean, yes, they have a really, really good high brand awareness, but still, like, how do you know the customer knows that this report costed $39? And in best case scenario, I've seen where a dealership website would say free Carfax report. I'm like, okay, great, you're telling them free, but you still haven't told them the value of that Carfax report. So you're actually missing out on an opportunity to say, Mr. Consumer, I want to earn your trust and that I'm not selling you a bad vehicle. So that way, you're not going to drive off the lot and the wheels are going to fall off. I'm willing to pay $40 for each of those reports, but, do you mind giving me your information? Like, there's a value of exchange. And so far, I haven't seen fake leads come through that.
I like that a lot, but I just wonder how that would work. Is it, wow, that's such a good idea. Can they still get it for free without filling out their information if they choose to, or they have to fill it out to get it? Man, that's really cool. Huh. Yeah. Okay. So I want to ask one more question, and then we're going to dive into something that we haven't done a lot here on the podcast, and we're going to actually show some of your websites, and we're going to do some comparisons. So for the audience, you probably want to look at the second half of this session. Go to my YouTube channel because we're going to post a video there so that you can see like actual comparisons. But before we do that, I wanted to ask one question to kind of tie everything to the current situation. Like with COVID and everything, what are some best practices? What should dealerships be doing on their website, right? Whether they're shut down or not. Because again, that's the one thing that's constant for everybody, is that website is still up, is still live. Customers are still going to it to get information, to shop vehicles. What should we be doing as an industry on our website to, I don't want to say capitalize, but to, take advantage of the traffic?
Yeah. So of course it depends by state. Like some states are completely shut down. It's illegal for them to sell cars. In other states, you could still sell cars, but you have to actually do home deliveries or by appointment only. So it all depends on a state. But what I've seen with our current customers is actually the traffic hasn't slowed down, and the lead volume is actually still stayed relatively the same, maybe dropped like slightly. But like one of the dealerships emailed me yesterday saying, it's like, Lyamen, we had 8 appointments and 4 car sales. So they actually had a 50% conversion rate on their leads. And he's like, the traffic hasn't slowed down. I'm like, 4 car sales in one day during the COVID time. And so, there's a couple of things that you should be doing. One, if the leads are coming in, start nurturing those relationships. Start, communicating them. Start helping them, research and make a decision about what kind of car to buy. Get them pre-approved for a car loan. We're not going to be in this situation for long. I'm being optimistic, hopefully by May only. We'll see. But the reality is, the world's going to move on, go on. So what our dealerships are doing to actually, be helpful, whether it's live chat, whether it's text messaging, whether it's doing video calls with, customers, start building that trust with your local consumers, make it easier for them to be able to go through your site. But now more than ever, your website is so, so important, And unfortunately, what I've seen is actually most websites got even worse because it's almost like everybody freaked out and just went to their CMS tools and just started adding a bunch of loud banners with a lot of text saying, we're open. Like one of the dealership's website, I mean, they literally have like this huge marquee and everything's like screaming and loud, pink colors, white colors, and a huge amount of text. I'm like, how's anybody supposed to get through your site? So the number one advice I would give them is to, this is the time now for a lot of dealerships that are, slow. Go revisit your website. Go look at it, going forward, even after COVID, your website, and the way how people shop has changed for the rest of our lives. Like it's never going to be the same, people ordering food delivering, grocery delivering, not a lot of people were doing it before. I mean, there were a lot of people doing it before, but not as many now. Like, a grocery delivering app downloads has increased 200%, just because now people are used to it. Now they got a taste of it. Now they're going to be expecting it. So now more than ever, it's important for dealerships to go back and revisit their website and say, is my website ready for the 2020 and 2021, for the future, how people are going to be shopping? And most importantly is look at your Google Analytics, and you'll notice that majority of your traffic is mobile. So is your website designed for a mobile device or is it designed for a desktop device? Like when I look at our some of our other website providers CMS tools, it's clear to me that we're built for desktop, that we're not built for mobile. They're trying to make them work for mobile, but it's different when you're trying to, stuff a, what's that saying? Stuff a pig in a blank hole. I'm Russian, I don't know the right sayings, but you could try to stuff it, but it's not going to fit in. So, you should, my advice to dealerships would be is revisit website providers, even the newer ones, because the advantage newer companies have is they don't have a technology legacy problem versus, some of those companies who've been around for 20 years, they build their technology back in the days. And when they're trying to innovate, they have a problem of trying to migrate people from old technology to the new technology and getting the systems to work versus anybody who's more of a startup or been around for 2 to 3 years. They're built their platform on the latest and greatest technology. So they're not going to have that kind of problem. They're going to be able to innovate faster and better. So, I would go back and revisit. Are you working with, a company who's, been around for a very long time? And what does their technology look like versus, what's the latest and greatest thing out there? And are you truly being innovative? Are you being cutting edge? How do you become a Carvana overnight, or how do you become Vroom overnight? And it's easy. You could do it. But imagine becoming Vroom overnight. So, but you have to have a good website provider. But the biggest advice is I would give dealerships is, you are getting leads probably right now if you have a good website. So nurture those relationships, be a consultant, be an advisor. And when the dealership is open, now all of a sudden you have a pipeline of 1,000 leads of car shoppers who've inquired in the last 2 months. So imagine having 1,000 warm leads that you could immediately get them to come to your dealership.
Right on. I love that. Okay, so let's we're gonna switch things up here. We're gonna actually see some examples. So again, if you're listening to this, go to my YouTube channel so that you can actually see the visuals on this. It's really, really good information. Like I said, I did a demo myself and I was really blown away. So I'm super excited to share this on the podcast.
Okay, so I'm gonna do a demo with a dealership called Fisher's Import. They actually do offer digital retailing ability for customers to buy a car online.
So let me interject you really quick because I want to make sure that we make this statement, which is one of the things that caught my attention from the gate when we did our demo, and that's that your website is built for mobile first, right? Yes. Mm-hmm. And the majority or all other websites are built the other way around. So they're built for desktops, but they adjust to mobile, depending on people switching devices, right? Is that fair to say?
Exactly. So mobile first, it literally means that you first start with the UX UI experience on a mobile device and make sure it's the best UX UI on a mobile device. And then how do you scale it up on a bigger screen? Versus mobile responsive, which is what all other website providers have, as they designed it for a desktop and then they think about how does it scale down to a smaller screen. And so with mobile first, for us, it's 2 different templates. It's the same website, it's a one domain URL, but the code was programmed to render 2 different user experiences. So like, for example, you're not like, this is as crazy as it sounds, but like, for example, I see dealerships have an icon to print something on their mobile device. I'm like, printing was not meant to be for mobile. It was meant to be for a desktop. And also, who prints these days?
Right.
So like, that's how outdated some of the sites I see. So even though, yes, you could see it on your mobile device screen, it doesn't mean your website is mobile first. And even things like, for example, all of our banners are made using HTML5, which is code, it's text, versus other companies who have mobile responsive, their banner ads are GIF and PNG, which is, static images. And so even though, yes, you could see the banner ad on a mobile device when it's a GIF and PNG, but it's hard to read it because, everything shrinks down to a small screen versus with mobile first, because it's HTML5, the code programs to say, okay, show it font size 14 for a window screen, not, font 14 for a desktop screen when you're trying to minimize it to a mobile screen. Now it's all of a sudden like 8 font size, So the way you program, the way you code things, that's the difference between mobile first and mobile responsive. But the key thing is that all the features you have on a desktop, you have exactly same features and capabilities on the mobile, but the experience was designed for a mobile device. Does that make sense?
Yeah, right on. No, I like that. I just wanted to make sure to make that distinction because from the sites that we saw, I saw a clear distinction for sure.
Yeah. So let me give you a great comparison, actually. So this is Fisher's Imports, a new website we're about to launch, versus this is their current website. So let me show you actually the desktop version. So the desktop version is going to look like this once we go live with them. So, everything is clean and easy to read. And this dealership is actually pretty amazing. I love this dealership. They have unique inventory. They have free shipping up to 250 miles, like pretty amazing dealership. And then also look, this is what their homepage is going to look like in their storefront. Versus like right now, if you go to their website, this is what their website looks like right now on a desktop. So you could read it, but right away you could tell it doesn't really even say much about the dealership. Versus, when you think about, again, the decision factor, decision tree, why should I trust Fisher's Imports? Like, why should I buy from them? And so they don't really, say much. Like, they have this text here, but this is clearly just for SEO purposes and not because anybody's going to read it. So, but when I change it to mobile, let me show you what it looks like on mobile. So let me click refresh. So this is what their website looks like right now on mobile. So you see how here's this banner ad. So even though you could still see there's a banner ad, you can't read it because this is a GIF and PNG file. If you scroll down, I think they had another banner here somewhere. Looks like the other banner that they had, the Carfax and things like that disappeared. So that's the other thing is I noticed majority of the dealership websites, like for example, Subaru websites, dealership websites, their marquees, their homepage marquees completely disappear on a mobile device because their websites are now mobile first. So imagine the manufacturer has a promotion, maybe, special financing, 90 days, no payments or whatever. You could see it on the desktop, but the minute you go on a mobile, it disappears. So that means only 30% of your website traffic even know you have this promotion. So versus with mobile first, let me show you. This is what the homepage would look like once we go live with them. So you see how you could actually read everything. And it's because it's HTML5. Okay, then when you scroll through it, so you see how you could still read it, and it's pretty clear here. Luxury used car dealership in Indianapolis, specializing Mercedes, BMW, Audi, Land Rovers. So like now as a customer, I know why I should shop at Fisher's Imports. They specialize in BMWs, Mercedes. Like, so if I want one of those cars, this is the dealership I should work with. Oh, you offer nationwide shipping, state and out of state. Fantastic. You give $200 shipping credit. Oh my God, nobody else offers this. Trust the best service department in Fisher's in Indianapolis. So you have a service department. Fantastic. But if you go to their current website, whoops, let me go back to this website, you don't even know they have a service department. Oh, never mind, you do, but it's right here. It's really hard to read because it's white text and a black background, and then they immediately want you to book an appointment. So anyways, so then let me go to a search results page. So this is their search results page. So you see how much space is taken up here, like half the screen is gone, and they used it up with the logo, with this message you could barely read because it looks like just a disclaimer. Kelly Blue Book cash offer, which is distracting. Like the goal right now is to keep people focused on buying a car.
Right.
And then scrolling down, you see a lot of text, and the price is right here. You could see it, but it's really, really small. So there's actually a book called Think Fast, Think Slow, meaning like even if somebody, yes, they could read it if they really concentrate, but if it's hard for them to read it, you're slowing down their brain operating speed, so they're thinking slower, which actually then prevents them from wanting to spend time on your website because it's a friction. So yes, I could see there's, this car is $21,000, but it's in red, it's in a black background. I don't even see a monthly payment, and I can't, okay, now they just added, I think, yeah, now you have to finally add it to swipe and see more than one photo. But look how much space is taken up. You could only see one car at a time. Versus their future search results page is going to look like this. So you see how here now everything is very clear. Here's the price, here's the monthly payment, here's the mileage, here's the interior. So everything is very compartmentalized, and you could easily scroll and you see more than one photo, and then you'll be able to swipe and see more than one photo at a time. And now we do have banners, between the cars, but the banners message is very relevant to what they're searching for. So for example, save 1 hour at the dealership, get pre-approved. That's a relevant message for me if I'm looking to buy a car. As you continue to scroll down, Find out your car's trade-in value. Great, that's relevant too. But it's very branded versus if you go to their website right now, when you have Kelly Blue Book Instant Cash Offer, like first of all, as a consumer, I didn't even know what instant cash offer was until I started working in automotive. So like, how is this even clear, the value proposition? So then
I like what you said there about, I've never thought about it like that, but you're right. I mean, we take them to the SRP so that they can look at a cars, and immediately we're like, hey, go away from the SRP and tell me what your car is worth.
Exactly.
That's very interesting. I like that.
And so now this is their current vehicle detail page. Again, look how much space is taken up here. And then you see the car, but everything is really busy. There's a lot of empty space. Like it says here, located Fishers Imports Northeast. Location details are in red, so it's hard to even read. But at this point, in terms of my decision tree, do I want this car? How much, can I afford this car? How do I buy this car? Like, this is not that important right now. And then again, they're distracting them with the, get a Kelly Blue Book Instant Cash Offer. What's an instant cash offer? I don't even know here what that is. Like, what's the benefit for me? And then you finally see, the details of the car. So here's the thing. This dealership has right now digital retailing tools. But can you even find those digital retailing tools? Can you see where it is? And actually,
I can barely see it at all. Like it's like you said, it's just very distracting.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, you remember the Carfax report I was telling you about? So look at this right now. They show me the free Carfax.
Yeah.
But they didn't actually say that this Carfax is worth $39. So this was an opportunity to communicate the value proposition. And let me see what it looks like on a desktop. So let me go back. Okay, refresh. Okay, load. Okay, it's loading still. It's supposed to have a digital retailing here. Did they get rid of it? Looks like they might have taken it away. They used to have a digital retailing button right here. Let me see. Yeah, no, that's just the form. Yeah, it looks like it disappeared, but they used to have a green button here that says customize your payment, but that would just open the car now. So this is what their vehicle detail page looks like. So in contrast, let me show you what it's going to look like on a mobile and on a desktop. So when you click here, this is what their mobile experience is going to look like. So let me go back here and compare it side by side. Okay, click refresh. Okay, as a car shopper, as a consumer, would you rather be on this page looking at the cars? And if you want to buy this car and research the car information, or would you rather be on this page?
Yeah, it's clearly better.
Yeah, so you see how everything is compartmentalized here. So one is, do I want this car? What do the photos look like? What's the make, model? It's certified. How many miles? The interior color, exterior color. And you can swipe, see more than one photo. Can I afford this car? Let's say this car is $227,000, saved by trading in. Here's my monthly payment. Okay, it looks like I can afford this car. And then there's three main clear calls to actions. One is unlock manager special because they have a special right now going on. And then start buying it online. Oh, that was the call to action we came up with. Is start buying it online. So it's clear that you're starting, but you're not going to be able to complete it. But by saying start, it implies that you're going to save time at the dealership. And then it gets free shipping quote. And then but if you want to buy it at home, you click on it and it says go for a test drive, schedule a test drive, or see this car without visiting the store. Start one-way video call. So. But you see how everything's compartmentalized, including the Carfax. Vehicle history report, normally $39, you get it for free. When you click on it, here's the form. You fill it out, and then immediately gives you the Carfax report.
I still think that's so cool. I've never seen that before. I love that.
Thank you. Idea. And so look at this. When you click on get shipping code, so if somebody's looking to buy a car, the first question is, well, how much is the shipping going to cost me? So here it says get shipping code. Free shipping up to 250 miles for nationwide shipping quote, or for nationwide shipping, get a quote below. So they fill this out, but again, part of a customer journey is, I've seen, for example, one company, they added a widget to a shipping quote, which was a really poor experience. But even if a person is already on the vehicle detail page, then they're asking you to put in the vehicle information. Why would you do that? The customer's already in the vehicle detail page. You already know what car they're interested in. Pre-populate that information. So we actually pre-populate that information so a customer doesn't have to enter that because it saves them time. And the only thing we need them to do is put in their first name, last name, email, phone number, delivery zip code where they want to deliver it to, and the state. We know where it's being shipped from because they're on the dealership website. So we know the dealership website. So in the back end, we program the API to know the vehicle information and the shipping from information. The only thing we need to know now is the customer's contact and the zip code. And actually, we don't even need to know the customer contact. We just need to know the zip code. But the contact is to generate a lead. So then when you click next, then here it says, Larry, here are your shipping options. So imagine a dealership being able to offer shopping experience like Amazon. Here, what are my shipping options? You go get it standard shipping, let's say it's $290, or get estimated delivery by, with standard shipping, you get estimated delivery by April 4th or through April 7th. And then you also get a Fisher's Imports credit. But you could also get express shipping and get it delivered sooner than that. And you could also get an enclosed transport. Great. And here's what my total is going to be. Let's say it's $340. Or you could include it in financing. It's only going to be $8 more per month. Great. I don't want to spend $300 right now, paying up front. I'd rather, include in my monthly payment. And then again, there's what's the next call to action? Get car financing, so get pre-approved, or buy this car online, which is digital retailing, or place your shipping order. If they click on place a shipping order, it takes them through the credit card processing, so they could actually, pay for the shipping with a credit card if they want to, or with their checking account if they want to. But they don't have to because they could actually include it in their financing too. And then it says, okay, Larry, your new car will be ready to ship as soon as the vehicle title has been transferred to you. We'll be in touch, but if you have any questions, please contact us. And then immediately says here, don't keep it to yourself. Rate and review your recent experience. When you click on it, it takes you directly to either your Auto Trader reviews, your Google reviews. So now you just wow them with the fact how fast and easy it was to actually shop. This is a perfect time to ask for a review. So one of the things that I learned in marketing, doing this for so long is, the best time to ask for a referral or for a review is when they're the most happiest. And when they're the most happiest is when they just bought something.
Yeah, moments of delight. Yeah, for sure.
Yep, exactly. So what do you think so far?
I love it. I'm blown away. It's just it's very seamless. It's clean. I like the mobile look. Obviously, I think that a lot of dealerships, and even myself as a marketer, we forget that customers are seeing us through their phone mostly. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so it's kind of crazy that we build that experience for a desktop that adjusts to the phone instead of doing it this way. I mean, it's a lot easier to read. I like the SRP page because you could see multiple photos on one view. I think that those ads in between, or not ads, but they're kind of like ads in between the photos. I think that's kind of cool too because they're relevant to that. Yeah, that it's relevant to them looking for a car. You know what I mean? It doesn't interrupt them. It doesn't interrupt the flow of looking for a car, like what you pointed out with a trade-in tool, for example, which now we're telling the customer, okay, stop looking at cars and now go worry about your trade.
Yeah. So, yeah. And not only that, like, for example, let's say if I'm here on a vehicle detail page. Oh, by the way, I was going to show you this. Even when you click on the see photos, we always have this thing called what's the next best call to action. Don't ever let a person just sit there. As they're looking through the photos, you're telling them like, okay, schedule a test drive next available today at 3:30. And when they click on it, it actually gives you a scheduling tool. Versus if you go to our other website providers, so like let's say they had a schedule a test drive here somewhere. Where is it? Let me go to their desktop. Maybe it was on the desktop screen. Let's see. Okay, so this is, by the way, a perfect example. So you see how they have a test drive? This test drive button was missing in a mobile. It only shows up on a desktop. This is an example of not a mobile-first website, because a mobile-first means you have exact same features and capabilities on desktop as you do on mobile. It shows up on the desktop, but it disappeared on mobile. So when I click on here, it just gives me a boring little form versus, and by the way, let me fill this out really quick so I could show you something. Test. Okay, blah, 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 at gmail.com. They're going to hate me for sending them fake tests. But okay, so here I schedule submit. Oh. So you see what happens. So I just filled out a schedule a test drive and it says, thank you. We have received your information. A representative will contact you. Versus, let me show you what happens with us. So one is you actually see a full scheduling tool. So it tells you, 3 days at a time, because the goal is to get a customer to dealership right away, not give them a whole month schedule. Yeah. And then when they click schedule an appointment, so they put in their information, confirmation page. Now in here, we're not just showing them this. We're actually telling them, your appointment is confirmed, add it to your calendar. Once you add it to your calendar, it actually pre-populates dealership physical address and the phone number. So when you're in the car, all you have to do is click to drive. And then it says, save 1 hour at the dealership, know what you could afford, get pre-approved. And immediately takes them to the get pre-approved process. So our goal was, by the time a customer walks into the store, they're not only scheduled a test drive, they're already pre-approved, they already know their trade-in value, they're ready to make a decision. So this is, called behavioral science, the next best action. Don't just let them, leave the site. Keep them on your site. Keep them engaged on your site.
I love it. I love it. This is really cool stuff. Thank you so much for sharing this. This is probably going to be the longest session in the podcast history. But I really I loved it. I think it's just cool. You gotta, if you're listening to this, you have to go to the channel and you have to see this. It's gonna blow your mind. It's dope. So yeah, I mean, you guys have really thought this through, and I think you have something that's really, it's different. You know what I mean? So, anyways, so we're getting close to that time. I did want to give you a couple minutes to let the audience know how they can reach you, how they can schedule a demo. I'd be shocked if you don't get a lot of people reaching out to at least do a demo with you, because this is really something different and unique.
Thank you. Yes, the best way to reach us is visit our website. It's www.321ignition.com. We're very transparent about everything. We have all of our information about the features you get, the price. We have all our pricing on our website. We don't hide anything. What you see is what you get. Going back to preach, do it as you preach. So we're telling dealerships to be transparent, and we're doing the exact same thing. So you could actually, on our website, click on the pricing page and see all the plans we have. You can compare it side by side, the features, the cost, the plans, everything is on our website. And so once you're on our website, you'll see our phone number, you'll see a way to request a demo and everything else. So the website is www.321ignition.com.
Right on. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it, especially during this time. I think, again, website is the one thing that we all still have, and we can use it regardless of the situations that the respective situations that our dealerships may be in. So I think that this is it's a very valuable and timely information. There is one question that I ask everybody that comes on the show, and that question is, where do you see the automotive industry headed in the next 5 years, and why?
Wow, that's a big question. I mean, it's going to go in so many different ways. I mean, I hope that, our laws change and we actually will be able to transact online. I definitely see that happening, but I don't know how far away we are from that. I think more and more people are going to expect transparency. I think more dealerships are going to start getting adapting to being more transparent and publishing more information on their website. Like, for example, when I was talking to one dealership about their F&I products, and he was afraid of us promoting his F&I products because he's like, my F&I team is doing so good right now. He's like, I don't want to ruin this, so I don't want to talk about them. I'm like, it's actually going to help you sell more F&I products. So I really hope, I don't know if that's a prediction, but I really hope that dealerships going to adjust their thinking and really start behaving more like Amazons of the world and, Macy's of the world, Best Buys of the world. Make it easy for people to do their research and understand it's not going to hurt your business. It's only going to improve your business. Zillow was the first company to allow a consumer to get an appraisal of their car without speaking to a real estate agent. Real estate agents were freaking out. They were like, that was our job. We were supposed to do CMAs. They all hated Zillow. They all thought that Zillow was going to go out of business. At that time, I worked at House Values. And look where Zillow is now. And are real estate agents losing deals? No, more than ever, real estate agents are actually, we're busy.
Right.
COVID thing. And, Zillow was the first company to actually publish reviews that were positive and negative. And like my board of advisor guy, who worked at Zillow, he was telling me, he would get calls from real estate agents saying, how dare you? I'm paying you guys all this money and you guys are allowing negative reviews about me. And he's like, it's going to help you because first of all, nobody's perfect. Nobody could have 100% positive reviews, So what if you had one, negative review? Look, the fact you have 300 positive reviews. But people were so not used to that level of transparency. They thought that by being that transparent, by publishing things online, that all of a sudden it's going to hurt their business. But it actually made them more informed. So now when a customer is buying a house, they have more realistic expectations because they know what, other houses are worth based, square footage and what they want. So my hope for the future is that dealerships are going to be thinking more about customer first obsession versus, thinking about them. And if you put a customer first, it's a proven model. Your business will succeed. It's always about customer first.
Right on. I love that. There you go, everybody. That's all the time we have for today. Again, Lyamen, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really, really appreciate it. I love the product. I can't wait to share this with the audience. This is really, really cool. So again, guys, check it out. Go so that you can see the visual. I can't stress that enough. You have to see this. So anyway, if you like this session, if you like this podcast, please make sure to share it with somebody that can benefit from this information. That's all the time we have for today. And as usual, we'll talk later.